The first item on the agenda is public comment. Elizabeth, did anyone sign up to speak?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we have no speakers today. First thing I'd like to do is introduce and welcome our new members. We've got Linda Garris-Bright, who is joining us now, recently appointed, and David Weiner. Would either of you like to say anything? Give us a short introduction about yourselves?
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Linda Bright, been here in Virginia Beach since 1969. I have 3 businesses here, working with individuals that have mental health diagnoses. I do own a transportation company, but I still have the license for it, but you know, I don't have time to keep that going. But I enjoy the work that I do, and I work throughout the Hampton Roads area. And I've been doing it like about 41 years, I guess. Yeah, and so I just, when I was telling this gentleman here that work is not work when you love it. It really isn't. So I really do enjoy it and work closely with the governors and President Obama and Valerie Jarrett. When they were in office, they sent for me to come to help them on a project they were doing. And I thought, how in the world they know who I am? So, but I was thankful for that because I went and spent the day. And driving home that night, I'll never forget, my niece said, Aunt Linda, you're very quiet. You're not talking. So I said, well, I just left the White House. And I really, really enjoyed myself meeting everybody. So that, those are some of the things by being in this field that I've had an opportunity to do.
That's fabulous. Well, we welcome your insight and your experience.
Thank you, ma'am.
David.
I can't get anywhere close to that. Born and raised here in Virginia Beach. This is my stomping grounds. I grew up in Thalia, went to Prince Anne High School. I've been in the construction business for the last 40 years. I was lucky enough, I guess, to be on the planning commission for the last 10 years. Got reappointed a couple times. And just a couple other committees in the city. And I enjoyed working with the city, and I hope I can help out.
And that was a huge time commitment, so thank you. And this won't be nearly as time-consuming as Planning Commission. We appreciate all of the work that you've done on behalf of the city. We welcome your insight as well. All right. This is our annual meeting, so as we do with every annual meeting, we have a nominating committee report, and then we'll have an election of officers. Our nominating committee was Dr. Bill Brown and Gunter Weissenseal.
Well, we did have 2 of the commissioners leaving. That also left 2 of the officer positions open. All the other commissioners said yes to continue. And Taylor Franklin, he's actually going to change from assistant secretary to vice chair. And Dr. Brown is going to take the assistant secretary, and I am okay with taking the secretary position.
Great.
We have to take a vote on that, right?
Yes, please.
We do. All right. So would you read then what you've got for the new officers?
It would be Dr. Brown, assistant secretary, myself, secretary, William Brunke, treasurer, Lisa Murphy, chair. That's it.
You forgot Taylor Franklin.
Oh, and Taylor, sorry.
All right, so we'll take that as a motion. And can I get a second? Motion. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Wonderful. Thank you to everybody who is stepping up in a new role. I'll now review and ask for a motion on the meeting minutes from our August 15th meeting.
Move to approve.
Got a motion from Mr. Brunke?
Second.
And a second from Ms. Morgan. All in favor say aye.
Do we have to abstain since we weren't here?
Technically, yes. All right. So we've got
Abstain
motion
for
and
the
second, and we've got our 2 newest members are going to abstain from the vote because they were not here last meeting. All right. So everyone else, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next, we'll get a review of our financial statements for August 2023 with Katrina.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning. Good morning, board members, and also good morning, Councilman Bellucci. I will be presenting the August 2023 financial statements. Okay. Operating account summary for August 2023. We have the beginning cash as August 1st, 2023, $4,601,686. I have broken everything out, itemized it to let you know what the significant cash receipts were. And that total was $3,576,396. There is a continuation. Leaving our ending cash as of August 31st, 2023, $4,583,391. Moving along to the incentive and initiative account summary. As of August 1st, 2023, we have $2,889,288. Significant cash receipts, $464. Significant cash disbursements, $11,329. Okay, giving us an ending cash as of August 31st, 2023, $2,875,769. Okay. We have the EDIP summary reporting for August 2023. The beginning VBDA EDIP grant balance is $3,315,536. We had earned interest and activity analysis fees for $80. We had no expired or closed EDIPs for that period. The new grants approved by VBDA is that we had no new grants presented on that month, during that month. The EDIP grants available as of August 2023 was $3,315,616. Madam Chair, this concludes the financial reporting for August.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions for Katrina? All right, hearing none, we'll move to the next item, which is request for approval of a resolution extending Centerra's due diligence period for their acquisition of our note to Vanguard Landing, and that's in District 2. Alex, you want to
Sure.
synopsis?
The authority made a loan to Vanguard Landing back in 2014 to allow them to purchase property. They're constructing a development for people with intellectual disability. The loan has been in default since 2019. We've been working with Vanguard Landing. In April, Centerra approached us about purchasing the note. We gave Centerra 60 days to do due diligence. In June, they asked for another 90 days, and they have come back to us and said they need 90 days more. I've spoken to Virginia Housing. They've represented that they're working with the Attorney General's office, with Centerra, and with Vanguard. They feel that closing is very close, but they're just not quite there yet, and rather than have us do a shorter extension and have to be right back here in October, we're recommending a 90-day extension. The authority is currently owed $2.1 million. We've agreed to accept $1.2 million in order to release our lien and satisfy the note, selling it to Centerra.
So to recap, this is an extension of the period that Centerra has to do their due diligence to determine whether or not they want to acquire the note from us, and they would step into our shoes under the note. It sounds like they really need a shorter period, but we're trying to make sure we don't have to do this again.
Vanguard asked for a shorter period. When talking to Virginia Housing, they said just to be sure. The process is they'll issue their final commitment letter, which that's the document they've been negotiating over the last several weeks, and they expect it to be issued in the next week or two, and then closing is usually within 30 days thereafter. Sometimes things just take a little bit longer, and again, rather than either bump into a deadline ask you guys to do this month after month. We're just asking for 90 days.
Hopefully last time.
Hopefully the last time, which is what I said last time.
Any questions? Mr. Brunke?
Just, I'm assuming by the fact that you are requesting this extension, that you're comfortable.
Yes.
That there's no adverse effect that could occur during the 90-day period, given our current status as the note holder.
Correct. You hold a secured first position lien on the property. That isn't impacted until we agree voluntarily to sign something to release that lien. So our position is protected.
Okay.
There are no payments due during this time, so it doesn't impact the balance.
That was key. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good question, Bill. Any other questions?
Do they honestly believe they're going to close? I mean, 'cause we've been hearing them say since the beginning of this year that, you know, they have to apply by a certain month in order to get into the line. So you talked to Virginia Housing, they feel confident that
Yes, sir.
they are going to close.
And that is a key point. They have previously not spoken to Virginia Housing, and they offered that and set up a conference call
Gotcha.
the next day, and they were very enthusiastic.
Well, I think that's important because,
Right. And I think having Centera involved, sort of stepping into our shoes, is also important because they're in a much better position to help facilitate and make the project happen, frankly, than we are.
are they going to subordinate their position then for Virginia Housing, Centera?
Yes, sir, and I didn't get into details because that's not our deal, but it is the details of the subordination, which apparently are the
Right.
last piece of the negotiation.
Certainly have much more information than we've gotten in the past.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, then I will entertain a motion unless there are any other questions.
So moved.
Got a motion from Dr. Brown,
Second.
second from Mr. Brunke. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Wonderful. The next item is a request for approval of the exercise of an option to extend the VBDA lease with Town Center Associates for our space.
Yes, ma'am. The authority leases this entire floor. We have since 2013. The original lease was for 10 years, contemplated 2 5-year extensions. There's been a 3% escalation each year. We're currently at $37.96. And the director has.
One of the things I did is I called him out of Hoffler. We were past our renewal date, so there was really an automatic renewal of this lease that we were dealing with. I did talk to them. They suggested that they could do $1 off of our some of our operating costs, about $25,000 worth of value, in return for the ability to relocate the department. And that trade-off is, I don't believe, worth that. If I could get them to agree to remove that and just give us the $25,000, at least we'll get the $25,000 a year saved. So, but I would recommend approval of the lease.
So without the $25,000 savings, if they tie it to the relocation rate, and if we can get.
I would approve it as suggested here, with the understanding that I would, with your direction, call Armada back and say, hey, we don't want the relocation clause, but we sure would want to save at least a little bit of money. See what they'll say. Otherwise, I would recommend approval as is.
What does the relocation look like?
They would have perhaps the ability to move us to Columbus Center, for example. And the amount of money and time that would be involved in doing that.
More than 25,000.
Yeah.
Is that all too well?
Because you've got this whole boardroom set up, the AV.
Furniture, the AV, everything.
The incubator space and all that stuff.
Yeah, it would be a nightmare. Okay. So I will entertain a motion to extend our lease without any kind of relocation options. We'll let our director figure out the details.
Motion.
Got a motion from Ms. Morgan?
Second.
A second from Mr. Weisenseel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next item is request for approval of the renewal and extension of a lease for the Human Services Building located at 3432 Virginia Beach Boulevard, and that's District 8. And there, we are the landlord and they are the tenant.
That is correct. This originally was a financing tool where the city needed a human services building. We utilized a federal program where a mortgage would not count to get the federal monies, but the lease payment would, so the authority owns it, leases it. Those bonds are retired, but we just kept the arrangement in place. The city contributes, and Trina, how much per year?
Yes, monthly, it is $47,910.67.
And that money is for upkeep and maintenance of the building. This is a revenue neutral transaction for the authority. We're just asking that we extend it for another 5 years.
Just curious, is that the one with the roof issues that we're
Yes,
fixing?
yes, sir.
Okay.
And it's city funds that are, they're in your account, but it's funds from
I
the
just
city. But
make sure we have the same building.
most definitely.
Annually, it would be equated to $574,928.04.
Yeah, we've got an expensive roof replacement for that one. All right, any other questions?
Move to approve.
Got a motion from Mr. Murphy and a second from Ms. Morgan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. I didn't realize this was going to be the Alex
I didn't
show
either.
today.
Hot seat.
The next item is request for approval of the renewal and extension of the town center security contract with Tavares. Mr. Stiles.
So several years ago, we combined the security of the town center. Ours provides security within the buildings and in the private areas, and we were providing security in the garages and the plazas that the authority owns. We needed a unified security setup for communication purposes, and the contract expired on July 1st. We're cleaning that up. The services have been continued to be provided. We're asking to extend it for 3 years with 2 one-year extensions. This is funded from the SSD. It is about $300,000 a year. There's a management fee of $25,000 a year, an administrative fee of $7,700, and then they pass through the hourly security costs for the guards, along with transportation and such, and our parking management folks review the costs and pay them. We've had no issues, and we just ask you to approve it.
All right, so then I will entertain a motion to approve the renewal and extension of our service, our security contract for town center security with Tavares.
So moved.
Got a motion from Dr. Brown and a second from our new member, Ms. Bright. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next, we have a request for approval of a resolution authorizing a conveyance of an easement to Dominion Energy on terms set forth in the summary of terms. And we've got with us this morning Ashley Grant, who is an assistant city attorney.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ashley.
All right, so this is with the Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind Project. And so Dominion is going through from their offshore wind farm off the coast of Virginia Beach, taking their line, their transmission corridor all the way through to Fentress. Part of that crosses Innovation Park, and so before you this morning is a request that the VBDA approve a conveyance of that easement through Innovation Park to Dominion. Disclosures. All right, so this is the project background. It's a commercial renewable energy project, 176 wind turbines. When it's completed, should be able to power up to 660,000 homes, and the turbines are scheduled to come online in July 2025, fully operational by early 2027. The route overview, you see at the very top here, the proposed cable landing location, which is kind of off the coast of the State Military Reservation. Through there, we'll continue through Oceana Underground until Harper's Switching Station, and then it becomes a overhead transmission corridor. Where possible, the approximately 18.5-mile route will be located along existing or within existing Dominion transmission right-of-way. Much of the route follows the Southeastern Parkway and Greenbelt corridor, if you all are familiar with that. And this is just a visual to show what the structures will look like when completed. You've got so here is their easement for most of it, particularly through the Innovation Park area, will be 140 feet wide. The Southeastern Parkway is, by comparison, 300 feet wide. Within the Dominion easement, you've got about 45 feet on one side from the two structures, 50 feet in between, and then 25 feet from the edge of that structure. And that's supposed to help. I know in the past when they've gotten transmission easements, they've not accounted for additional regulations for outside of their structures. And so this is supposed to account for regulations that determine, how the proximity of other facilities in proximity to their structures. So that's why the 25 feet on one side, 45 feet on the other, to account for that. To the VBDA, Dominion's offer is $1,046,941 for what will approximate 2.25 acres through Innovation Park. This section was appraised at $459,000 at a 50% of the market value because it's an easement. Dominion recognizing that pretty much once they have the easement, it's going to be like a 99% take, essentially, just double that offer and added a little bit more to it. And so that's how we arrived at that number, or how they arrived at that number. They are seeking to acquire the easements and have everything in place by November 1st so that they can meet tree clearing deadlines and just begin their project trying to keep everything on schedule. And this is just showing you at the bottom how it comports with the current concept plan. That highlighted area is where the Dominion easement transmission corridor will run through. We are in the process of negotiating with Dominion to retain as many rights as we can to continue developing according to the concept plan. And of course, they would acquire subject to existing infrastructure, roadways, encumbrances that are already there in use. The recommendation is for approval of the resolution that would authorize this conveyance to Dominion based on the terms that are set forth in the summary of terms, which includes the price and the acreage and the fact that we will retain as many rights as we can to be able to continue to develop in that area.
Any questions for Ashley? Bill?
I have two questions. One, what are the permitted uses that we have on the land for which we're providing the easement? What are we allowed to do, and how does that fit into our requirements? If you can share that.
Right. So what Dominion has, what we've set up is more of a process. So what we have right now, if I understand correctly, this area is not developed, like the parking lot has not been constructed yet. Hudom Way, I believe we already have the right-of-way established, or it's soon to be. So, and then this BMP, this one exists, this one is soon to be established, the extension of that. So, for things that are already in place by the time their easement is recorded, those will continue to be in place. So Hudom Way, if the BMP rights have already been reserved, all of that. But like for the parking lot, lighting for the parking lot, things like that, Dominion is aware of this concept plan, and this concept plan will be recorded with the easement. And so they will agree to the location as depicted in the concept plan. But its development will still need to go through their engineering department and be approved.
Dominion's engineering.
Correct. for the specifics, for specific grading, specific lighting structures, heights, things like that, because they are bound by federal, state regulation with what can be in their transmission corridor, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then my second question had to do, not necessarily with us, but with adjacent properties in the neighborhood. There's, on your original map, it looks like a tremendous run of easements that they may need to obtain. Maybe they already have some of them. I'm particularly thinking of the progress that on the opposite side of Princess Anne Road, there's a brand-new housing development that's gone in just south of there. I forget the name of the neighborhood. It's still being built out. It's across the street from the golf course. How is that process on the other side of Princess Anne Road going?
So I think that you're still referring to easements that are kind of going through maybe the Lansdowne area?
I guess it would be the Lansdowne area. I'm not exactly sure what's there. I'm just curious because we're ready to sign off on something. Are we the first ones of the dominoes to go down in their requirements? Is everything already in place? What happens if the whole thing goes sideways because of, not in my backyard neighbors?
Right. Couple different points. So I don't know that we are the first ones, only because the state has already given them the easements they need through the military reservation.
Okay.
So there's several different parties involved. It's the city, VBDA, the Navy, the state, and so they've already gotten certain things in place. The SEC has already approved their route as of August of last year, and Dominion does have the authority to ask the SEC for condemnation approval. And so, even though there might be a little bit of pushback, what Dominion's approach has been to that is to try and accommodate what fears neighbors might have. So for example, moving the transmission a little bit further away from the residential side of the corridor to maybe closer to the fields or what have you through that area, so that there's a little bit of a buffer between homes and in their transmission corridor where they can. But it's important to note that they did have several iterations of a proposed route, and this is the one that's approved by the SEC, which would also be able to give Dominion condemnation authority should they not be able to acquire everything voluntarily.
Actually, isn't a large portion of this in the right-of-way that was reserved for the Southeastern Parkway?
Yes, that's also important.
So a lot of it already exists.
Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking of a brand-new neighborhood being developed.
Absolutely.
Homes and spending prices that are between 600 and $1 million, and then, nobody likes big towers in their backyard.
Right. Well, I believe, I don't remember when this project has been around for a while, the concept of this project for years, so hopefully those people are already aware of what might be coming, so.
And the Southeastern Parkway's been on the books for 30, 40 years. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. And that's the benefit. So the city didn't release any of that right-of-way that kept it for this type of use.
Right.
It is outside of our particular concern, but because it is adjacent, I was curious how they may be thinking.
Absolutely.
With regard to what we do.
And because it's transmission, obviously it has to be above ground, right? I mean, we like to see utilities underground, but this is one that can't be put underground.
I don't know the specifics as to when it has to be above ground or when it has to be underground. I can only speak to the fact that this one is in fact going overhead, so.
Yeah, I think Avangrid was going to put theirs underground from Sandbridge to Corporate Landing, so I'm not sure that it has to be overhead.
Where does it
Because
actually,
they have a very similar project.
where does it actually start and stop underground? Because I know you said it's coming in underground, so where does it
yeah.
actually go overhead?
So it starts going
Switching
overhead at that Harper switching station. So
Okay.
across Navy property, the aquarium property, and the state military reservation, it's underground.
Mhm.
And then overhead from that point.
And there's already a major transmission line that comes through that part of the city.
A little north of
Yes.
So there's no question that they have the right to come through Innovation Park. The only question is the price they're going to pay. Is that correct?
Well, so they don't inherit, oh dear.
They would need to exercise condemnation authority.
Condemnation,
Right.
yes.
But ultimately,
Yes.
Yes, you're correct, sir.
Right.
And Ashley, if you go back to that one slide, we're really talking about, if you're looking at the master plan for Innovation Park, this is slated to be parking lot anyway.
Correct.
So the only potential impact, or what they'd have to look at, is the grading of the parking lot, landscaping that's going in the parking lot, but it's not going to impact our ability to site a building or a new business there.
So long as that building is not located within their easement corridor.
Right. Which
Yeah.
we're not planning
Any buildings, right.
Right, it's parking lot, and it looked like a part of our BMP. So they're going through our land at a location that's not really that impactful to us.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have a prospect for this land right now?
We do. We also are getting confirmation that we have the ability to utilize that easement area for parking. So as we were to develop on the parcel that we're going to be looking at adjacent to it, then we might be able to put parking underneath those apartments.
And we have run it by, the preliminary concept plan has been run by some Dominion engineers who do believe that that will be fine with the facilities that we propose, so.
Yeah, normally they only get concerned about actual structures and
Right.
landscaping and light poles and things that are gonna stick up out of the land.
Right.
All right, any other questions for Ashley? Hearing none, I will thank you very much for
Thank you.
providing us this information. And I will entertain a motion on the request for approval of a resolution authorizing the conveyance of an easement to Dominion Energy on the terms set forth in the term sheet. Got a motion from Goodyear and a second from Ms. Bright. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Next item is any priorities or any reports from commissioners. Anyone have any updates? All right. I do not have any, except to again welcome our newest members. We're really fortunate to have you all on board, and we're looking forward to your term. Next, we'll have a report from our interim director, Mr. Rigney.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Vice Mayor, Councilman Berlucci. I just wanted to share with you a recent trip that we just came back from. Paige Fox joined me on a trip to the Brazil Wind Power Conference that was held in Brazil. And it was very exciting. You might recall that for our pre-IPF show back in March, some 20 members of the Brazilian delegation came up associated with the wind power energy industry. Because of that involvement of that group in March, and because they obviously had an interest in showing us what they were into, we joined Select USA, an organization that put together a very robust trip to Brazil to be engaged in what they're doing in the wind business. So we flew into Sao Paulo and then to Fortaleza, then back to Sao Paulo. We were supposed to fly to Porto Alegre. Because of weather conditions, we elected to scrap that. They had flash floods and hurricane force winds, so we opted to go on to the next leg of the trip and ended up in Rio de Janeiro. It was a really good conference, and also the American Consulate had arranged for us to make a presentation to some 60 Brazilian companies that were interested in hearing our pitch about Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads. I would point out also that Jared Chalk from the Hampton Roads Alliance did join us, and Jared and I made a presentation at the American Consulate, after which anybody that was interested in having one-on-one meetings with us had the ability to do so. And we had some 30 folks that wanted to speak to us one-on-one. The show went over that, the presentations went much longer than we were supposed to be there. I can't stress enough how gracious the American Consulate was down there in hosting us and staying with us while we kind of went overtime. We do believe that from that, those presentations we're going to have significant prospect activity and interest. They are a little bit ahead of us in terms of some of the business that they're doing down there, but they're also extremely interested in what we're doing here. I would also point out that as a follow-up to this trip, that our internet cables that are coming in onshore do start in Sao Paulo and Fortaleza, and then they go into San Juan, and then they come in onshore here. So we also have some opportunities, I think, to expand that business opportunities in that industry for down in Brazil. So it was a fascinating trip. I would tell you that Sao Paulo is 46 million people in the city. It's the dense as Manhattan and as big as LA. So if you think about that, it really was, people were everywhere. It was just unbelievable. And then the other cities are also, we visited their port in Fortaleza. So we do think we're going to have significant prospect opportunities in Brazil. We're going to continue to go after that. But I think with that, that's enough for this morning.
Can you tell us what types of companies in the industry you were talking to when you were in Brazil?
Well, there were other members of our delegation that were from around the country, actually, and they were involved in various aspects of either building the ships that take these platforms out to sea, or that are engaged in some element of that industry. We pointed out that obviously with both the Siemens Gamesa use of the former Portsmouth International Terminals and the Fairwinds Landing deal that is right across from that there is a very robust, significant manufacturing opportunity in our region, and where Virginia Beach, we think we can fit in, is in smaller components of that industry. We don't have the land area to really kind of lay down these massive blades. We did visit a blade manufacturing company, and it was an onshore blade manufacturer that is now looking to move into offshore. And they are doing work and building blades for Siemens Gamesa and others. So it was very interesting to see how these blades are made. It was very interesting to me because they're massive, they're huge, but they're hand painted, which was kind of unusual. They had people with paint rollers painting these things. And because the spray to spray these would require enormous painting kilns and the like, so it was just too costly to do it. And they have a quality control division that every one of these blades is inspected for any small flaw in them, and then they come back in and fix them, and it's really amazing to see. It's about the size of an airport, the factory was, and so they are interested in construction of blades and contracts further with, they all want to know more about Dominion Energy. Obviously, we just talked about that and what we're up to here in Virginia Beach. And so I do think that we're going to be a smaller player in some of these things, but turbine manufacturing or parts and suppliers and the like, we can definitely pick up some business there.
Great.
Yep.
Any questions for Chuck?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, hearing no other business, the chair will entertain a motion to recess into a closed session pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by Section 2.2-3711A Code of Virginia as amended for the following purposes. Contracts, discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A29, and that pertains to District 1, District 2, and District 3. Legal matters, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A8, and that pertains to District 2, 3, and 5. Next, prospective business or industry. Discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A5, and that pertains to Districts 1 and 3. Next, publicly held property. discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3, and that pertains to Districts 2, 3, and 5. I will entertain a motion, a second, and then we'll have a roll call vote.
So moved.
Got a motion from Mr. Brunke? Second from Dr. Brown, and roll call, Elizabeth?
William Brown,
Yes.
William Brunke,
Yes.
Linda Garris Bright,
Yes.
Penny Morgan,
Yes.
Lisa Murphy.
Yes.
David Weiner,
Yes.
Lucas Weisenseel,
Yes.